the truth.
Well, second hour of Authentic News right here on RBN Live this 24th day of April 2025, where I take your questions. Let's start with Bill in Kentucky. Bill, join the conversation.
Hey, Jim. Jim, good afternoon. When you were talking about the Pope, made me think of this. J.D. Vance. Now he's from Ohio, but he grew up partly in Breathitt County, Kentucky, near Jackson. You taught at UK. You probably know where that is, or have an idea probably anyway. And well, at any rate, there is all these crazy internet rumors that J.D. Vance could potentially be the Antichrist. I don't think that's true or anything like that, but it's weird. The rumors are like that he psychically or demonically or magically or some other way sucked the life force out of the Pope. I know that sounds stupid, but there's a lot of rumors like that. But you want to hear a really strange one about J.D., Breathitt County, Kentucky, where his family is from and where he spent part of his childhood. A lot of the telephone numbers there are 666. They begin like 606 area code and then 666. Yeah. There was even like a little Bible college there that made the phone company change their number because they did not like the 666 phone number. Well, I mean, I know this is kind of absurd sounding, but what do you think about that, Jim?
Oh, yeah, it's crackpot, 100% crackpot. Now, if they wanted to say that Vance, when he shook the Pope's ring, poisoned him somehow, that he had some implement like in his own ring that was used. In fact, it turns out Nancy Pelosi at a State of the Union was prepared to poison Donald Trump. She had a poison on her palm. Trump, I think, knew about it and didn't shake her hand. But lip readers were observing and translating conversation in the members of Congress about what they were going to do with the government when Trump was dead. In other words, they knew it was going on. Well, apparently Trump got one too. So there's someone whose hand you don't want to shake. Vance isn't the Antichrist. He isn't sucking any breath out of the Pope. But it's not beyond possibility that the Pope actually met in a natural death. I'm willing to support that. And you have to figure out who would benefit most from his absence from the scene. And I'll leave that to speculation. But there are reasons, I believe, that make it a legitimate question. Bill, further thoughts?
Just the last thing I want to say there is, like, I'm not a fan of Pope Francis. There's a lot of things about him I didn't like. But however, now a lot of people liked him. I didn't wish anything bad on him, and I even have relatives that are Catholics. So and not many, but I do have a few relatives that are Catholic. Some a couple liked him, and some of them hated his guts. I guess like anything else. I guess it's anything, but some people really like the man, and it is a sad thing regardless. I wasn't a fan of him, but I didn't want to see him murdered or anything like that, if he was murdered. But that's basically all I got to say. You guys have a fantastic day up there.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you for the call. Gabriel in Arkansas. Gabriel, join the conversation.
Good afternoon.
Yes. Welcome back.
Pope Francis was attacked a lot this week, and I wanted to share information from a more reverent perspective that actually ties into what you were just talking about, because believe it or not, I'm going to present some information here in a moment where Pope Francis was actually a thorn in Netanyahu's side, and he was not following the Zionist agenda. His real name was Jorge Mario Bergoglio, and he chose the name St. Francis of Assisi as his papal name. He chose his name, St. Francis, as his papal name after Francis of Assisi, which is kind of interesting because if you look at the saints, there's like 3 or 4 of them that stand above all the rest, and a couple of them are actually reported to perform miracles greater than even Jesus Christ. And for example, St. Bernard and St. Francis are among those top 3 or 4 that are really above all the rest. So that's an amazing name to choose. But one of the interesting things about Pope Francis was he admitted that we are not alone in the universe. And last night I saw an interesting interview with Munther Isaac, leader of a Lutheran church in Bethlehem, located in Palestine. This is not a Catholic. Munther Isaac is the author of a book entitled Christ in the Rubble that gets into how the Gaza genocide goes against the message and example of Christ given in the Gospels. Well, Lutheran Reverend Isaac explained how Pope Francis was in a big conflict with Israel and Netanyahu over Gaza, and the Pope, up until his death, was requesting daily to be brought into Gaza to see the damage and to condemn the genocide, and Israel and Netanyahu continuously refused to allow Pope Francis into Gaza, and they took other steps to silence the Pope, I think. 4 years ago, if you look at video footage, Pope Francis was walking around on his own, perfectly, performing ceremonies unaided. Professor?
Yeah, I'm listening. Go right ahead, Gabriel.
Well, I mean, that's in a nutshell what I've got about on that right now.
Okay. You're suggesting the Israelis might have had a motive to take him out, right?
I mean, he was the biggest thorn in Netanyahu's side as far as Gaza, protesting Gaza. He was really against it. He was daily, up until the day he died, he couldn't walk at a certain point, and he was requesting to be carried into Gaza. Every day he was asking to be brought into Gaza to look at the damage and to condemn what was happening.
That's really fascinating. Yeah. Go ahead.
If you look at how quickly his health diminished, it appears that he was slowly poisoned. Now, just to quickly shift gears, because I know you've got a lot of callers, I listened to your first hour, and I agree, Wikipedia is really bad unless you're looking up sports stats. And now there's websites better than Wikipedia with sports stats. So I rarely visit Wikipedia. Ever since I checked to see if Wikipedia, if its information on Rudolf Steiner was correct or accurate.
Yeah.
And at the time, all the information on Rudolf Steiner was largely incorrect. It said Steiner had a great influence on Waldorf schools, when in fact it was Steiner who founded the Waldorf schools, and it didn't mention that he founded them. It said he had a great influence on them. And then it presented his spiritual science as fiction. So, and I don't think that stuff's been corrected as far as I know. My final thought, Professor, is, I know that you were interested about me reading the 9/11 Commission report, and I just want to say one of the main objectives to 9/11 and the Commission report was to produce hatred towards Muslims. And in the Commission report, it went way off track and talked all about ethnic cleansing and genocide in Africa.
Yes.
But it was blaming it on Muslims. But in my opinion, if it was actually a small group of terrorists that they labeled Muslims to get people to hate Muslims.
Yeah, they were the patsies. They were patsies. There's no question about it. They had nothing to do with the attacks. All four of the crash sites were fabricated or fake. Two of them weren't even in the air. Flight 11, that would be the North Tower, 77, the Pentagon. The other two, 93 was over Champaign-Urbana after it officially crashed in Shanksville. 175 was over Harrisburg and Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, after it allegedly hit the South Tower. I actually obtained FAA registration records for the physical planes that performed those flights, where, of course, the same plane could on different occasions fly from Tampa to Chicago or from New York to San Francisco, and discovered they were not even deregistered or formally taken out of service until 28 September 2005. So how can planes that weren't even in the air have crashed on 9/11, and how can planes that crashed on 9/11 have still been in the air 4 years later? It was a gigantic scam. It was a total gaslighting job on the American people, and I support Ron Johnson in his efforts to expose it to the public. Gabriel, a final thought?
Yeah, I do. I love Ron Johnson, too. I've been listening to that other guy that you've been talking about, the Jewish gentleman that's been condemning everything. I forget his name. But,
Henry Makow? Max Blumenthal?
No, just the last day or two.
Okay, go right ahead.
With the glasses, The Economist.
Okay.
But anyway, your show is red hot. Sometimes the episodes don't appear in the archive, and if they don't appear in the archive, anybody in the audience can call 1-800-724-2719 and request an archive refresh, and the RBN staff are very, very nice. They'll do that if once in a while the website gets jammed up and we can't see the episodes in the archive. So
fabulous. What a very nice observation, Gabriel. Excellent call. I look forward to your next. Yeah.
Have a good day.
Did you want to add? Go ahead. Yeah, thank you, Gabriel. John in Michigan. John, join the conversation. John.
Your first caller, hello, now I'm on. Jim, thank you for...
We got you. You're here. We hear you, okay. John. Go ahead.
All right. Well, the first caller, when he brought up 666, your whole call went off the air. That whole discussion that he was presenting went off the air. So I don't know what happened there. And I was brought up a Catholic. Yeah. So I couldn't hear what he was saying after he brought up.
Let me tell you. He was saying there's some area codes in Kentucky 666. He said there's some who think that Vance is the Antichrist. There's a rumor that Vance sucked all the air out of Pope Francis when he visited him. He wanted my take on it. I explained, no, he's not the Antichrist. And
that's okay, because, Jim, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I don't care about this Pope. I was brought up Catholic. I don't care about any of these churches. They've all been manipulated with the World Council of Churches, all these preachers at the pulpit. The Catholic religion is, the Vatican is a decadent place. Have you ever heard of a gentleman named Leo Zagami?
Yeah, go ahead.
Leo Zagami will tell you about the whole Vatican criminality there. There's the Rothschild banking cartel has a bank right in that Vatican City. So we're dealing with bankers, and we're dealing with this person that was supposedly the Pope of the Catholics was a Jesuit. And the Jesuits, if you know any history on those folks, they're not very accommodating people. And he also wasn't supposed to be a Pope. He also came from South America, where he was covering up on pedophiles. So he's got his just dues right now. Whatever they come up with next, the Catholic Church is total decadence and criminality. I have no respect for any of the leaders of the church. I don't care what you say. Look at all the pomp and money they spend on all this garbage decorations, and then they send these Jesuits out to ruin communities throughout the world. And that's enough of the Pope stuff. But you brought up the fact that you're diabetic and your wife is diabetic, is that true?
Yeah, type 2. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, yeah, well, type 2 has been created. There's a gentleman named Dr. Joel Wallach. He's out of San Diego, but he presented the whole history of the diabetes industry. It was begun in the 40s, I believe, and without diabetes, all these specialists would not have a position in the medical world. He also stated, this is Dr. Joel Wallach, he said that all you need to do, and this is in a book of the elements. Are you familiar with the elements? I'm sure you are. Of the scientific elements?
Well, of course, of course.
Well, there's a book. It's called Minerals for the Genetic Code. You can find it on Amazon, or you can. It's a book written about Dr. Richard Ulrey, who lives in northern Michigan here, and he breaks down all of the elements. And his statement, Dr. Wallach's statement, was that he could cure all the diabetes in the town the size of Houston by putting people on vanadium and chromium, and within a week to a month, he said there'll be no more diabetes. So you might look into getting some vanadium and chromium and getting this book. It's called Minerals for the Genetic Code. It explains how our body works with all the different elements and how they work within each other. And the childhood diabetes that's rampant is caused by the vaccines that blow out the pancreas, I believe, the pancreas. It blows out the pancreas, and that's where child diabetes come from. The adult onset has to do with diet, the stuff that they have in the food, the lack of nutrition, and so you could probably here's chromium, especially chromium picolinate, is referred to as the master regulator of insulin. So these doctors are not versed in nutrition. They're cheating the symptoms. And if you can just get your diet probably in a way that's really beneficial to you, and if you can find this, this book is out there. It's wonderful. Yeah. I just showed it to my homeopathic doctor, and he's ordering it too. The Minerals for the Genetic Code by Charles Walters. And
okay, I'm glad you mentioned that, John. Yes, very good. Minerals.
I think a lot of people will benefit. I apologize. I didn't let you respond.
No problem. Well, go ahead.
Well, I just think that a lot of people that have this type. I have a customer that's 90. She has type 2 diabetes, and it's all due to diet. It was designed back, I said, in the 40s and early 50s. I have information on it from the article that was printed. And if you talk to Dr. Joe Wallach, his one book was Dead Doctors Don't Lie. He breaks it all down as to how it really is the whole cure for all of this so-called adult diabetes. And one other thing is that without having wars, all these people that make bombs and stuff that are part of war, they don't have a business. So they have to have these bombs. They have to make them and blow them up to make more. And we just have to get to the root of all this evil, where you don't have wars if you don't have the armament. The people in Gaza don't have the protection that we support the Israelis with. I don't call them they're Zionists. And also the history of that. Have you heard of Dr. Lee Merritt before? Dr. Lee Merritt?
Yes.
Well, she's a former major spine surgeon. She and Dr. Artis did an interview, and it's about almost 2 hours long. But she takes these people back to someplace in Turkey, where they migrated to Ukraine area, and then they went into Europe, and then of course the Balfour Declaration, all that garbage. So these people. They run our country. They're Zionists. They're satanic, and I think that the Catholic Church is satanic at the top, and that this Pope was not I don't care what Gabriel was talking about as far as he wanted to go see Gaza. Well, he can just look at the photos. He doesn't have to go there. What's he going to do? Like do a miracle and tell
Thank you, John.
Netanyahu that he's going to go to hell?
Thank you, John. We'll be right back after this break.
Nothing you can sing that can't be sung. Nothing you can say, but you can learn how to play the game. It's easy.
Cynthia in California, join the conversation. Cynthia. Sure. Cynthia.
Zoom, yeah.
Go,
Now
yeah, go ahead.
The gentleman who called on about Lee Merritt's presentation, there's one subsequent to that where she describes those people from the Ukraine as coming up from Anatolia, but an area that historically was called Phrygia, Phyrgia, and she notes that Phrygian cap is related to that, and that it shows in symbols here in the United States also, and that these people, the western half of Phrygia, went to Italy, and they became the Italian elites and the ancestors of the royalty of Europe, much of Europe, and so that's a very interesting relationship because we think of the international banker Jews as being servants of the kings, but apparently they're actually genetically related to begin with. But I want to mention, speaking of international banksters, how they create debt in order to get a country to be held over the barrel. Think about this. Mexico was invaded, I think, maybe 1850 because they couldn't pay their bills. They couldn't pay their debt off. And they have us with all of this incredible debt. But there's an interesting side of this, which is that we don't actually owe that debt. Because if Congress votes to spend money on something that isn't authorized under the Constitution, they've committed fraud. But the people have not committed fraud. We don't owe that debt. The people who buy that debt are knowingly buying. If they're paying attention, when you make a big investment and you spend millions of dollars purchasing debt, you make darn sure it's good debt, but it's not good debt. Our debt is not good debt, and we don't owe it. And part of the problem is that the federal government never gave up the lands to the states. That land that is called federal land doesn't belong to the federal government. It belongs to the states. It has just never been rendered over to it. But we think, at least Catherine Austin Fitts thinks that Trump is going to try and sell off federal lands to pay off the debt. But under the Constitution, he can't do this. You know, we have this problem because Trump is not a constitutionalist. For example, he said, he got us out of the Paris Accords. Well, if it's a treaty requires the Senate to confirm, right? The president can't just go off and do this. And so he got us supposedly out of the World Health Organization, but the fact is that the next president can just sign us back in, because if it was a treaty agreed to by the Senate, you have to get out of it by going through the Senate. And the Senate, if they agree to a treaty that gives up our sovereignty, which is what happens when you join the UN and the World Health Organization, they are traitorous. They're traitors, and it's not a valid treaty. So we have to go back to the Constitution. Everybody needs to tell their Sierra Club friends that there's going to be an effort to sell off the federal lands, but give them this explanation. We don't actually owe the debt. The lands don't actually belong to the federal government. They belong to their states, and they need to get active and join the constitutional movement. You know, I was in Oakland for a Cop Watch conference, and, you know, they're complaining about the police. And frankly, some of the police are out of control. In fact, they apparently have programs where the smarter you are, the less likely they're willing to accept you into the program to become an officer. They don't want exceptionally bright people. They want people that will follow orders. And so I mentioned that under the Constitution, the militia is supposed to enforce the laws, and there isn't supposed to be a police force because the police force is a standing army. And my God, the speaker made fun of the idea of following the Constitution, and the crowd went with him. Can you believe that?
Cynthia, you've told me it happened. I believe it. They shouldn't do it, but they did.
Well, there's a good reason to go with the militia, especially we have 20 million retired military here. They could be very helpful if they understood what the Constitution allows and doesn't allow. Just saying.
Got it, Cynthia. Good stuff. Thanks for the call. Francis, North Carolina, join the conversation.
Hello, young man. Guten Tag to you. Whoops. Yeah,
Stand by, Francis. You got a break. Francis, go ahead.
Young man, I am beyond help, so go figure. I'll leave you with that funny one. I have a couple of thoughts for you. You gave me a really good chuckle at one point regarding the aspect of one of the politicians going and saying that, we need to restructure China's endeavors and how they handle things financially, socially, and so forth. Well, I have a thought for them. And it's the same thought I have for how they want to go and handle or attack Iran. And that is simply this. Put your hands up and step away from the country. China's been doing well all this time without you sticking your nose up their backside and trying to orchestrate how they do things and so forth. And the same way with the bloody tariffs that Donald has instigated, for that matter. So I find it totally reprehensible and absurd. Because the next thing you know, they'll start bombing China and starting to do to China what they're doing to the people in Gaza and basically bulldozing their homes or what's left of their homes and their lives there, for that matter. So it's gotten to be absolutely ridiculous. Now, I know a lot of people think, well, we need to give Hegseth the benefit of the doubt regarding his handling of various information and so forth, which they say is not declassified or anything else is open and fair to the public. I don't think so. Two, if there's been a run of afoul the first time with this Signal chat or whatever it is on their toys and so forth, and yet they got reprimanded, chewed out, or whatever the case was, and yet they do it a second time, then I'd like to know who is doing what that he has not gotten the picture. Do it once. Shame on you. Do it 2 times. Shame on me. Let's not go to the third time around because you're to the point that you're involving family members and you're a little chit-chat with other officials and so forth. I find that okay, who orchestrated this garbage? But as far as that part goes. Now, with, I could go on and on and on. I'm going to keep it short and sweet if I can for you.
Give us a final thought, Francis.
Well, final thought being is that, one, the people, leave them to run their life as they see fit, especially over in the Palestinians, over in Gaza and so forth, as well as here in the U.S. where people are being picked up, snatched up, and arrested that are U.S. citizens. Yes, there are some terrorists here or whatever, or illegal immigrants that have come in or whatever, and so forth, but there are people that are being picked up. I mean, you all could be picked up. I could be picked up.
Thank you, Francis. Thank you for the call.
Have a great weekend.
You too. Jerry in Chicago. Jerry, join the conversation. Jerry.
Oh, thanks for taking my call, Dr. Fetzer. I haven't called for a while. I wanted to just agree with the caller that called in and mentioned Joel Wallach. I've been taking, I take 4 of his products. I've been taking 3 of them for 14 years. And the other one I just added about 3 years ago. And it's the Tangy Tangerine, the Pollen Burst, the Rebound, and the Collagen. I mix them up in a drink every day, and that's all I drink all day at work. I eat 1 meal a day. I eat 1 meal a day. Sometimes I only eat 5 times a week. And I get by just fine. Got energy, everything else like that. So you might want to look into Joel Wallach. He's at Youngevity.com. Youngevity.com. And I think he can help you, your wife, and he's in his 80s. And I got to tell you something. Guy starts every day off with about 6 eggs and a big piece of steak with his protein and everything else like that. That's what he eats. Okay, so I just wanted to drop that in. I will get off now and let the next caller go.
Thanks, Jerry. Thank you, Jerry. Dan in Washington, welcome back. Dan.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
There you are. Hey. Yeah, I wanted to follow up on the call yesterday. I wanted to defend Renee a little bit because I thought she made good points, and at the end she did not attack white guys. So I thought she made a good call. So I disagreed with the caller later on that called her ring-a-ding-ding. The other caller, too, no one ever said that the John Birch Society created communism. What I was saying was William F. Buckley kicked the anti-Semites out of the conservative movement in, like 1970? So ever since then, yeah, the John Birch Society has been lying and saying it's communism and not Jews. And they have not been naming the Jews. And one of the guys that started the John Birch Society wrote books about how it was funded by Wall Street big Jewish money the whole time. So it's been the right wing was subverted a long time ago. Did you notice that, Fetzer? I mean, sometimes they say the word communist when they should be saying Jew. Am I
Sure.
wrong there or what?
No. All kinds of things like that happen all the time. Go ahead, Dan.
Well, and then Renee, I know a lot of people. Your generation was like the first PSYOP generation, right? I mean, they won World War II. They basically subverted and took over both the entire system of America. And you and Renee and your whole generation were basically the first ones that were totally PSYOP, they call it, right? So Renee, whenever she says something anti-white, she can't help it because the left wing was subverted, in the 60s? You had the Abby Hoffman, what was that guy, the Chicago terrorist people. You had Timothy Leary. You had Gloria Steinem. You had all these people that were the new left or whatever, and they just turned the left wing into being anti-white jerks, basically. So so that's when the left wing got subverted. So that's my main point. Is it's total subversion of the left and the right, and
Yeah.
that was my point about the John Birch Society,
Thank you.
and that's why the conservatives were. When Reagan came in and Bush and all these neocons, and they did everything that was good for Wall Street and stuff, that's why that happened, because they weren't saying the word Jew, and they were trying to say we're not communists. But the capitalists are just as much controlled by the Bolsheviks as the Bolsheviks were. So there you go.
Thanks, Dan.
Anyway.
Thanks. James in Vancouver. James, join the conversation. James.
Yeah. Good afternoon. Reversing diabetes is easy. The people that I studied medicine with studied medicine in places like Munich in 1940s. So this problem has been solved since the 1930s. You simply reprogram the DNA and the organs, which is very easy to do if you know how to do it. But look at, I called because the interesting thing you mentioned about the Houthis hitting the ships. This is a Gulf of Tonkin again, but this time the belligerents are really shooting. Back to you for your comment.
I missed the last part, James.
Okay. Let me try it again. Okay.
Yeah.
The Houthis that you talked about today, right?
Right, exactly. The two carrier groups, right.
They have hit the American, I'm not supposed to say we, according to my buddy in Washington. I have to say you. But, hey, look, my family was in North Carolina by 1720, so I take issue with that. But look, the Houthis have hit American ships at sea, right? When the Gulf of Tonkin, the belligerents didn't fire. They might have come out in their Comar ships to warn the Americans, but this time you've got a Gulf of Tonkin where the belligerents are actually shooting and have hit the American vessels. So this calls for rapid, we've got to hit them back like ASAP because they hit us, you see, and there's your pretext for war. Back to you. Yes.
James, we've already been hitting them. I think the Houthis are going to shoot. I think the Houthis are going to sink our carriers before we take out the Houthis. Yeah. I think that's
exactly.
I think they know what they're doing. We have no idea what we are doing.
I will bet you dimes to donuts that we have armed the Houthis several years ago because we were in Yemen beating the crap out of them vis-a-vis the Saudis. We were arming the Saudis to hit the Houthis or the Yemenis. And you see where Yemen sits. I just checked it on the map. It sits right above the Horn. So every ship that goes in there, they can select this one and this one and this one, you see. So the strategy is perfect, right, to start a war.
Yeah. They've declared war on Israel. They're fighting it in accordance with international law. We, however, are not. Hey, thanks, James. Thank you.
All right. Talk to you later. Bye now.
You got it. Sean in Hawaii. Join the conversation, Sean.
Hear me, sir?
Go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. I got a pretty small story. There's a video now. I got it off of Facebook of the FBI Kash Patel. I don't know if you covered this. I might have missed this. But he's stating that the Federal Reserve is a bunch of robber barons. And he's talking about ending the Federal Reserve.
Good. No, I haven't reported that story yet, but I love it. Tell us a little more.
Yeah. I have no idea, but it's on the internet, and he's detailing taking apart the Federal Reserve. I mean, I think this could be the story of the century. I mean, that's a huge announcement, and he's calling it what it is.
Yeah, but it hasn't happened yet. Look, Sean, it's a great idea, and I'm glad he's saying it, but let's see what happens. Words are cheap. Actions, it's a whole nother matter. I mean, talking about doing it and doing it. What's unusual is it's coming from the director of the FBI. So I'd like it. Yeah, it's a good story. Tell me more.
Yeah, great. Whatever happened with them seeing if they have any real gold in the Fort Knox?
Yeah, I know. I'll tell you, I got a surprise to everybody. It ain't there. Yeah. Good, James. Anything else?
I just want to state I read the Shah of Iran's wife's book many years ago, and she said that he was going to build ports big enough to build aircraft carriers. And with that, I'll let you go. Thank you for your show. Love your show.
Okay. Thanks, Sean. Layla, join the conversation. Layla, welcome back.
Yeah, hi. Yes, hello, Jim. I have some bad news for Canadians. I hope we have Canadians listening or people who know Canadians. Please look very cautiously at the history of Mark Carney. I've discovered on the Corbett Report, I spent the whole night watching video after video after video, and it turns out that it was not Justin Trudeau or Chrystia Freeland who were responsible for the debacle, for that horrible attack on the Freedom Convoy. It was Mark Carney. Mark Carney has been advising Justin Trudeau for a decade. Again, I can only rely on the apparent credibility of the reports that I'm seeing. These look very credible. Mark Carney was the one who called the protest not a legal protest. He called it sedition and said the funding for them must be cut off. Remember that Mark Carney went from the Bank of Canada. He went to the Bank of England because of Brexit. And remember, Nigel Farage was cut off, was debanked. He was punished. He's been pretty well sent off to the hinterland. Once Carney took over or grabbed control of the leadership of this country, once he told Trudeau, okay, you've done what we need you for, get out of the way, puppet, it appears that instead of Mark Carney trying to ameliorate things and go to Trump and work out an agreement with regard to the tariffs, because Mark Carney can be very persuasive. He's very moderate in the way he speaks. He chooses his words carefully. Instead, he chose to declare war on Trump and the U.S. dollar. What he did was he went to Macron, and then Macron, he went to King Charles and probably other European leaders. We don't know. He's basically declaring war on the U.S. Why? Because the U.S. is really the only thing that stands in the way of globalization. Apparently, Mark Carney keeps saying, I'm an outsider. He claims to have resigned from all his international organizations. Now, apparently, he did resign from some, but not from all of them. He has also appointed inexperienced members of parliament who weren't actually elected. There's one woman who is the MP in my riding. From the very beginning, it was apparent she was grossly underqualified to be elected even as city councilor. She didn't campaign. She just sat in a donut shop and told people to come to her. She got elected. Then she was suddenly just plopped down as a member of parliament. Carney has appointed her as the leader of the House and the government. I mean, leader of the government in the House. I'm just baffled by what's been happening. This would be the least of all the members of Parliament from London, Ontario. He chose this unqualified woman from Burundi, who herself said that she was not qualified. I remember reading how she was carried through Carleton University because she didn't really understand what was going on. Hansard is the book that records everything that happens when Parliament is in session. I have tried to find if she ever spoke up even once. Never. She just sits there. And she is now the leader of the government in the House, as well as responsible for democratic institutions from Burundi. She's a young woman. She's probably a lovely person. But she's a member of the WEF. She's one of the new global leaders. Mark Carney is not only is he the insider, I'm beginning to wonder if he's actually the wizard. It's terrifying. I can't believe how easily I was taken in. I just think I don't know. We've got to be I'm worried about Poilievre, who's the leader of the Conservative Party. He's a Zionist. He's in favor of the genocide that's going on. Carney pretends not to be, but he's the one who ordered the military to come out and attack the truckers who were protesting. Granted, they were there too long. They made life very difficult for the residents of Ottawa. The noise was, but all they had to do, the only thing one of them, either Trudeau or Chrystia Freeland or someone from the government. They were there until somebody from the government would speak to them about removing the lockdowns and not forcing vaccines on people. And yet Carney called that sedition, and they needed to be defunded. So he's the one who, if, again, one never knows what is true anymore. I mean, I don't even trust my own impression was that Carney would do wonderful. But suddenly he came out of nowhere. He became, once Trudeau resigned, once it was necessary. It's been obvious for years that Trudeau was not qualified. Never was. But he was put in there as a little puppet, while the one pulling the strings apparently might have been Mark Carney. And then when he was ready to when Trump made the move that could allow him to take over, he got rid of it. Justin Trudeau came in and he called an election with only 1 month, so he cannot be exposed. That's all. I just want people to think. May I have a final word about what I think may be the answer? I think it's too late. We're very close. The election is on Monday. People have got to be careful in order to, if he turns out to be as bad as what some of these reports are indicating, they've got to have enough of a disparate. They cannot just rely on either giving the Liberals a large majority, because they cannot be brought down, and yet they cannot have the Conservatives as too powerful. They've got to spread the vote around. Make sure they elect a lot of the people that are now, according to the polls, which are fixed, may not be accurate. They've got to have all parties represented in the House. That would be my hope.
Thank you, Layla. Well said. Well said. Well said. Tom from Florida. Tom, join the conversation. Tom.
Oh, I guess I get anyway, I just want to say that guy Sean that just called in, he made some really good points. Good call, Sean. Sean, I guess his name was, right, Sean?
Yes, Sean, yes.
Yeah, it's really good points. It really did. Listen, Jim, whatever. I want to talk first. And by the way, Robert Menendez's wife has been found guilty. He and his wife are both going to prison. Menendez, the United States Senator, Democrat, demon rat. Both him and his wife have been found guilty. I don't know if you knew that.
Thanks.
Okay, now
Good.
You know that. Right? Now you know that. Okay, now I want to talk about Keith. Keith made a very good point yesterday on your show. Yesterday, I got to listen to it. Keith Rogers. He was talking about how they're stealing all this money. I want everybody to understand right now what they're doing in Boston, Massachusetts, Jim. Have you ever heard of a guy named David Friedman? David Friedman, a Jewish guy. Have you heard about him?
Just
Jim?
go ahead. Go ahead, Tom.
Well, he's on YouTube. He's on YouTube exposing the billions and billions and billions of dollars they stole in the state of Massachusetts. Do you know how much they're paying these illegal aliens in the city of Boston a day for food? You have any idea?
That's scared to ask.
Oh, I'm going to tell you anyway if you're scared. It's not Halloween yet, but we're I think every day's Halloween. But I think here's what it is. They're paying these illegal aliens every day. You can look it up on David Friedman's YouTube channel. $128 just a day for food. That's not counting lodging. So he went in this hotel. Yes, sir. And I want Keith to hear this. $128 a day just for the food for the illegal alien. They're getting $58,000 a year. Some of them have only been in 3 months in the United States and Boston are driving cars around. Now, what the hell is going on? You got there's not one Republican in the state of Massachusetts. The whole state is Democrat, like Mexifornia. Okay? And you're paying illegal aliens $58,000 a year. I don't that includes medical. I don't know what the hell that includes. But the food bill they're charging per person is $128 per meal. I mean, per 3 meals a day. So figure it out. Now,
that's pretty high class eating, Tom. That's eating pretty high on the hog.
You ain't. Oh, what you see? I used to see the plate of food they're getting 3 times a day. Now this Jewish guy, Friedman, I got to give him some credit. He has a little mezuzah around his neck, and he's putting his neck out there because he's pretty bold. he goes in there and he's asking all these questions, and a lot of guys want to beat his ass. But here, this guy's exposing, along with this Stephen Miller, who's a Christian Jew in Trump's cabinet. He asks a lot of questions, too. So, you know what? I just got to say, Jim, I would say 80% of the Jews in this country are diehard Marxist Democrats, communists, whatever you want, Bolsheviks. But I love that call yesterday, the guy that called in talking about the Bolsheviks and all that. He made another great call. But when you got some guys like Michael Savage, Mark Levin, and you got these other Jewish guys that actually do go out and they're trying to get to the truth, I don't know what to say about that, other than the fact that I know they have a conscience, and I think that, you know, they know what's right and what is wrong, because we do live in a predominantly Christian nation, Jim. 90% of the founding fathers of this country were Christian men, and they weren't promoting homosexuality, none of that crap. Okay? Most of those guys gave up their fortunes in that colonial war. So I just got to throw that out there. But when you have a guy like David Friedman going to these places in Boston, and Jim, you won't believe it, but a lot of these people that he interviews, they have an accent, like a thick Spanish accent. And I'm saying, and he's pointing out this one lady's making $450,000 a year, the other lady's making $360,000 a year. It's crazy.
Thanks, Tom. Good stuff, Tom.
You got it,
Thank you so much. Thank you. Everyone, spend as much time with your family, your friends, and people you love and care about. We don't know how much time we have left. Use it wisely. Support RBN. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow right here on RBN.